Hi, there's a picture, considering that I'm into healing arts. I've got my voodoo skeleton in the background, some other symbol in the background. Okay, one of the things that I've studied over the years in order to be a complete teacher and a complete healer is Hoodoo and Conjure. That's something that I've studied fairly recently, in fact. Now, look, I've got my post-it notes on me, so I'm actually going to be reading from those. I had intended to do a talk about it without having to refer to notes or books or stuff, but it's Halloween today, October 31st. Haven't had time to plan and talk and edit and record and then memorize a speech, so I'm just going to make it up as I go along. Okay. Hoodoo, I studied a course on Udemy in Hoodoo and Conjure for beginners with a man called Stacey Tallitsche. He's an interesting fellow. I like Udemy. It's cute. More than cute, it's excellent, in fact. You can get some really very good courses for next to nothing sometimes, as low as £8 sterling. Okay, sometimes. Very often, in fact, you can get them for about £11.99 for some serious courses. I did get a course in cognitive behavioural therapy, a very lengthy course in cognitive behavioural therapy, a full certificate in cognitive behavioural therapy as one of the things that I've studied on Udemy. Okay, now let's get on with this Hoodoo and Conjure background, shall we? Hoodoo and Conjure may seem like a strange subject for a person to study if they're into healing, you know, with all this stuff about darkness, dark magic, black magic, death, etc., hexing and all that kind of stuff. But we could take all that kind of opinion to task here. For example, let's talk about one of the world's greatest healers of story, myth, history. First of all, there's the point that there are plenty of scholars who could throw into doubt the very existence of this great man Jesus, okay? I'm not necessarily throwing his existence into doubt because I consider myself beyond having to be vexed by such a question as to whether he existed or not, and beyond the question of whether or not I'm Christian. I am neither Christian nor not Christian, yet I'm probably more Christian than many a Christian. I'm beyond whether or not I'm christened or Christed, and yet I'm probably more christened and Christed than many people who consider themselves to be christened or Christed. I choose to be beyond the question. I will not be hassled by whether or not I'm Christian, whether or not the subjects I study are Christian. I will not answer those questions. I have better things to do than to waste my time being involved or insisted to be involved by some religiosity system that's into war, bloodshed and killing millions of people. Okay, point made. There's a serious point. Okay, I wanted to keep this a bit of fun, seeing as it's Halloween and seeing as I've got me daft Halloween costume on. Dig the hat, dig the hat. This is my Halloween voodoo hat. I've got me scar on my head and a couple of quid from Asda. Okay, you know, I like Hoodoo, I respect Hoodoo. One of the reasons why I studied Hoodoo with Stacey Tallitsche was because I look at lots of subjects and I give them my gestures and blessings of respect, even though they might be considered to be grey or even black sometimes. There are many people in the world who actually practice black magic, sometimes without realizing they do so, and sometimes even fully realizing that they do so. The hatred that we have for other people, generally speaking, in everyday life, hating our neighbour and wishing we do better than they do and that they fail in comparison to us, that is a form of black magic. The racism we all carry in our cells, that's a form of black magic. Just wishing that we are more successful than other people is black magic. Laughing at someone else's misfortune is black magic. Intending for somebody else to trip up is black magic. And for the most part, most of us very rarely actually remedy the laughter at other people's misfortune that we engage in. Most of us fail to remedy the wishes to negativity and lack of progress and all this kind of stuff that we wish upon other people. We fail to remedy it for the most part. A good thing about people who study arts and practices is that we learn two sides of a coin. We learn that yes, it can be used for hexing and negative stuff and casting spells and tripping people up, and yet we also learn that it can be used for casting good spells, for want of better words, for blessing people in certain specific kind of ways. Oh, that was good. Excellent. I've lost my skull on the wall. I'm going to go and get it. That was absolutely excellent. There are also apocryphal books which claim that this man they call Jesus wasn't always the goody two-shoes that he was painted to be through some stories in the Bible. Now let me make something plain. I'm not being against Jesus. Not in any way, shape or form am I against Jesus, yet I don't consider myself for Jesus. Not the Jesus as is painted by the world's religions anyway, certainly not. I believe that such a soul and such a character exists within us all, but that we will all do greater things than all of the wizards and avatars of history were purported to have done. Because I believe that we are all here learning to be wizards, learning that we are extraordinary, learning that we are all magical in nature and ability. Okay? That's my point. So, let's get on with talking about this particular Hoodoo and Conjure for Beginners course. Stacey Tallitsche says that Hoodoo and Conjure have southern United States roots. They are an ATR crossover. ATR stands for an African tradition religion. Hoodoo does not require any kind of initiation because it's more for the lay person. It's street magic, for want of better words. He talks about candle magic, which the common lay person can do, the use of magical herbalism and petitions in order to focus on magnetize within ourselves and set up circumstances in each of our individuals' lives and maybe pass on these circumstances to create things like money, more money in certain individuals' lives. Success in games of chance, he lists. A better career, motivate others to our goals, to help us improve our careers and create some personal progress in our lives. Now I know that there are places, and I live in a place where there has been plenty of progress envy. You've heard this phrase, penis envy, to refer to some kind of psychological condition that many people have. Well, I phrase this thing progress envy, and I'm sure plenty of you understand what I'm actually talking about. There are places where you can live where the locals, for want of better words, do not want anybody other than themselves or their own making any kind of career, job, employment progress. Don't want anybody making business for themselves. Small-minded, pokey, parochial, parochial, colloquial little places where, you know, all this kind of stuff happens. So Hoodoo and Conjure contain spells, techniques and methods in order to motivate others towards what your or their goals are. Okay. And another thing is about love. Attract and keep a lover. Mr. Tallitsche talks about what he says is the most important aspect of Hoodoo and Conjure, which is cleansing via baths and spiritual colognes. He says that this is the most important aspect of Conjure and Hoodoo, and probably of any of the spiritual disciplines in the world. One of the things he says about Hoodoo and Conjure practitioners is that he compares them to the MacGyvers of the spiritual world. That's obviously for an American audience, okay? Hoodoo practitioners use very simple items laying about in order to create their spells. You know, nails picked up off the floor, string, dirt, twigs, combined to sway chants to their or our particular direction or directives, okay, thus creating spells. He introduces his own character and gives us his own Hoodoo and Conjure name. Introduction to Tatalango. He covers what exactly Hoodoo and Conjure are. He talks about outsourcing of workings and spells and techniques and methods. He talks about manifesting destiny. This is part of the Hoodoo and Conjure study. Talking about specific ways of going about formulating intent, the use of imagery, timing, the understanding of personal ancestry, and action, as in it's not all about wishing and casting spells. It's about taking action towards one's personal goals and desires in life. Cleansing, as said, he covers spiritual baths for good fortune, removing negativity and hexes, uncrossing rituals, and home cleansing. Mr. Tallitsche speaks about spirit guides and includes details about one's altar, listening to the dead, the gods, and divination. When talking about candle magic, as mentioned earlier, he talks about the types of candles and image candles. In talking about magical herbalism, he covers specific herbs, dirt even, mojo bags, gris, and talisman. Mr. Tallitsche talks about powders and oils. He covers petitions, the why in what we're doing, why we do petitions. He encourages us to ask, what has love got to do with it? What has love got to do with it? He encourages us to look at bay leaves, and for women talking about lusting after their hearts, minds, bodies and souls. And he talks about relationship sweeteners. In talking about money, he talks about sweetness and reflection. He offers us a technique or spell called a road opener. He talks about going to the river, and he talks about the honey jar. He covers magic to do with going to court for whatever reason. Civil court, he gives us a cow tongue spell. And criminal court, he gives us a call for justice spell. And spells for traffic court. And then he goes on to interview a couple of people that are also involved in hoodoo. One, Kelly Jeffery from Inexplicable Things, and one, Sen Elias from Crescent City Conjure. And then in his conclusion, he asks the question, what about hexes? Wow! That's some night mine of information. Obviously, that's not an exhaustive list. There are thousands of books out there on the market on conjure and hoodoo, which will give you tons and tons of techniques. And there are lots and lots of big names in the hoodoo and conjure world. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching. You know, often when I'm sitting on the loo or doing my housework or at work, doing my job or whatever, anything I'm doing, I have 1,001 thoughts going through my mind as far as speeches that I could give, as far as things that I could say, as far as talks that I think would be of a given theme, would be interesting for some of you to hear. Just from the point of view of sometimes it's entertainment, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's news, sometimes it's of a given theme that is in the popular domain at any given point in time. I sometimes wish there was some kind of device that I could use to record such thoughts as they're going on, or turn them into a voice somehow, but that ain't the case. Even with modern technology, is it? We still need to set up a camera with the right lighting that I've got here in order to shine a light on our faces in the right way to make it semi-presentable. Maybe we could use a spell, a thought form, or hypnosis in order to create some kind of magical talent, magical form that will snatch such a thought the moment it's thought, snatch such themes and create true magic in our lives out of them. As somebody who's studied this hoodoo and conjure, am I likely to use it? Is there anybody in my life that I want to hex? No, is the straightest answer to that. There is nobody in my life that I would want to hex, nobody. And I wouldn't hex anybody anyway. I don't do negative spell work on people. That's a personal policy that I have. Okay, just to make that one plain. During the videoing of this particular video, I've had plenty of thoughts along the lines of saying something like, yes, but I do intend to make business as some kind of conjurer for people, for my clientele, for the people who would and will come to me in time, now or yesterday, whenever that time was and is. One of the things that I've quite often done for friends and family and various other people is create talismans for them. When I look back over the years, I've created quite a number of talismans, but it's so easy with ordinary reality setting in and having its daily demands of us. I've created quite a number of talismans for people, including sigil, magic and stuff like this, and chants and various mudras and stuff like this. Okay, this is one of the things that I do with my time. So yes, I do intend to make some business as a conjurer for people. Might seem like a strange subject, and many of my local friends and the neighbourhood around where I live actually know nothing at all about this. Some of my acquaintances just lately, people that I've known 10 years or just over 10 years, have in fact spoken about spiritual and psychical aspects of things that they're involved with. For instance, the spiritual psychical side of a martial art. Another acquaintance of mine has spoken about going on ayahuasca retreats and stuff like this, and yet as soon as they've seen some of my videos, they've either slagged them to death or been in complete disbelief and very dismissive about the fact that I'm into the subjects that I'm into. And sure, there are the greats, the great philosophers, the big names in all of these kind of arts, who could say, why would I be into doing conjure to create protections and petitions and magical lays for people to attract materiality into their lives or create material circumstance in their lives? Is true magic and spirituality not about understanding that life is an illusion, or the world is an illusion, not life. The world is an illusion. Well, I say that sure, when people try to say in spoken or written black and white words that the world is an illusion, they actually throw many people off the scent, because the world is not an illusion. The world is illusory. That's the more exact way of putting it. The world is indeed illusory, sure, but part of this so-called illusion is that it's double. The world is double. It is dual. There are two sides of the coin. There are two sides of the world. The spiritual and the physical, they go hand in hand. There's this famous Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that the triangle you can put both ways up. You can say that at the bottom rung, you know, you have survival and all this kind of stuff, and at the apex of the triangle you have your spirituality, your godhoodness, if you like, for want of better words. That you can't really take the next step up from survival until you've mastered survival. Now, I say that no individual ever or has ever totally mastered survival. No individual ever. We are all constantly subject to the cycle of finding food, shelter, warmth, music, art. We are all constantly in and out of work, in and out of jobs. Our true job, work, is to develop our own attitude of mastership over our own survival issues. Not to master survival, to develop our own attitude of mastership over our own personal survival issues. Then as we attain the next rung up and the next rung up and the next rung up and so on up to true spirituality or unity or oneness with our source, there are some people who say that we cannot get to that unity, oneness or connection with our true spiritual source unless we have traversed up all of these steps. We go up all of these steps in order to reach that pinnacle of oneness, of unity, of connection to our true source, of our Godhood. However, over the past few years, I'm going to class this man as a friend, even though I've not seen him for God knows how long. A man by the name of Michael in Forres said to me, see this thing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when in actual fact you could invert it completely the other way around and have a triangle that way round. Because in one view of one's hierarchy of needs, you cannot actually gain mastery or even mastership of your own survival issues, even in attitude, until you know your core, until you know your source, until you understand what your own spirituality is about. Until you understand your own personal spirituality, you cannot develop any kind of mastership attitude of mastership over your own survival issues. Because until you've grasped and understood your own spirituality, you don't know what your attitude is towards matter, towards life circumstances. That makes sense. Thank you, Michael. So am I ever going to cast hexes and spells on other people? No. This is, for me, this is all really a sense of humour. This is nothing more really than play, in order partly to just give little gestures of respect to people who have studied such things in the world. Because I respect people who study spiritual type arts. I respect these people. I give them their due. And why would I even want to make any kind of business as a conjurer of good for people, and as a conjurer of good through circumstance and objects that they desire for people, and relationships that they may desire for people, and money, etc. Because I think that spirit and matter go hand in hand. They have an intertwining relationship. They curve and swerve about one another. They complement one another. They bless one another. Matter and spirit sure depend on one another. And yes, I think it's a great sense of humour, whoever it was, Bette Midler, whoever said money doesn't buy happiness, doesn't know where to do their shopping. I think there's some truth in that, Bette Midler, whoever it was who actually said that originally. I think that as a conjurer, magician, wizard, spiritual type person, whatever you want to call it, whatever name you want to give it, helping people to focus on the physical aspects of life, relationships, money, wealth, an understanding of their position and positions via the objects that they have around them, is actually a very spiritual thing to do, though that seems like a bit of a misnomer. I think that helping people to play with matter and play in matter is a very spiritual thing to do. So, need I say any more? Thank you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Well, now that wasn't a very good outro, was it? Having said all I've said in this video, having outlined the course that I did in Hoodoo, that I have a basic grounding in Hoodoo, yet a deep understanding of the art, I invite you to come and talk to me. Yes, I want to make a living from all of the things that I study. Yes, I would love to make a living from creating magical works and talismans for people to attract health, wealth, happiness, good relations, good relationships, and all manner of specialness and excellence for individuals. So I invite you to come and speak to me. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. A couple of extra things to say, because I know how these things often need qualifying or quantifying or justifying. Before you go thinking that I'm some kind of gullible fool who falls prey to all and sundry. Oh, who am I trying to kid? Of course I am. I am the kind of young, gullible, foolish person who doesn't do research and falls prey to all kinds of mumbo jumbo. Of course I am. I love it, you know. Okay, there. That answers that. Okay. There's a couple of other things to say about Palo Mayombe, which is the art that Stacey Tallitsche has provided courses in. I came across a site on the internet talking about how Palo Mayombe is the twin evil brother of Santeria. Now, of course, I'm going to believe that, aren't I? You know, of course it is. Just because an internet website says it's the twin evil brother of Santeria, I necessarily believe that Palo Mayombe is the evil twin brother of Santeria. Of course I do. So therefore, having studied this evil twin brother of Palo Mayombe, I'll see you soon. Bye for now.